I mean, I can't lie, I was very experimental, sort of in my younger years. Not now, I'm probably really boring now compared to what I was. But I mean, my normal sort of sex life in those days was threesomes, foursomes. I'd meet someone a night out and, have some fun with them. Everyone's like that when they're young. Do you know what I mean? Like, I had fun with what I was doing. And basically, yeah, so it wasn't like, this is when I went on set and it was like a foursome scene. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is the first ever foursome I've ever had. I'd had foursomes in my personal life, but this was different because it was on camera. But once I found that I actually really enjoyed it being on camera, it was fine, yeah. It's like, and the strange thing is, this is what people always think about porn. They're always like, oh my God, like, you're having sex with someone else and this, that and the other, but it's not like that on set. Like, it is so different to what people think. And I always say, if you generally enjoy watching porn, never, ever, ever go to a porn set, because it would ruin every fantasy you've ever had of porn. Absolutely, it would ruin it. Because in real life, it's not like how you see on Pornhub. It's not. I mean, there's so many like stop starts, and they'll be like, oh, stop, you be in like doggy position, and they'll be like, oh, stop, we need to change the lighting. Stay in position though, because they're sorting the lighting. You'll be in that position, bent over, and you literally stop moving for a minute, and you're talking to like, the guy you're working with, and you're like, oh, so what are you doing after here then? And he'll be like, oh, me and the wife are just going out for a meal. I'll be like, oh, I've just got to go Tesco, and then you're just having a normal co-worker conversation. It's so weird. And then they're sort of say, oh, well, back to action, and then you go back into it, and it's like you're back in action again. But it's so different to what people think. So I always say, if you enjoy it, don't go to a porn set. You'd be severely disappointed.
What was your ex saying once he cheated on you and you made a porno to get back at him?
Well, he never said anything. I never heard from him about it. However, I think he's probably very well, I hope it upset him, yeah. What can I say? But I mean, yeah, I do believe that everything happens for a reason in life. I'm a very big believer in that. I believe in fate, and I believe in everything happens for a reason. And I think that the reason I had to go through someone cheating on me or whatever was to do that reaction, to then do what I've done now, which has led me on to so many different things, like even to the point of meeting my husband and stuff like that. If I hadn't gone into porn, I probably wouldn't have met him. So my whole life path has evolved from that. So I do believe everything happens for a reason. So for that reason, I'm glad it happened.
Do you think you would have chosen porn if he didn't cheat?
I think I potentially would have always gone into it. I mean, it's always interested me. Like I said, I've always been a bit of an exhibitionist anyway. And I'm not one of them people that shy away from stuff like that. Like, I think potentially it would have been on the cards eventually. If I hadn't have gone into porn full time, I definitely would have been doing OnlyFans now. As like, the housewife.
What about your husband? How did that relationship start? How does he handle stuff like that? Because as men, we're all protective, we're all jealous. No matter what men say, they can say, oh, I'm not jealous. We're all jealous because we're protectors at the end of the day. Like, how does your husband, is he a porn star? Like,
he is now. He wasn't when I met him. So when I met him, he was just a personal trainer. That's what he did. He didn't do porn or anything like that. And then when I met him, I kind of like took him to that dark side, I was like, oh, do you fancy just shooting a porno with me? And actually, how that happened, he was completely thrown on the spot. So we was going to a porn shoot. Well, he was driving me to a porn shoot because then we were going out after or whatever. And it was meant to be 2 scenes that day, and the guys were both booked. And basically what happened is, on the way to the shoot, and it was all the way in Birmingham, so we were driving quite a way, the director rings me and she goes, oh, the guys that were meant to come in, they've had to cancel or whatever's happened. So basically, we haven't got a stud now. She was like, and he was my boyfriend at the time, she went, would your boyfriend step in and do it? And I was like, well, I could ask, So I sort of sat next to him and I've gone, oh, would you mind doing like a porn scene with me today? And he's like, okay, like whatever. And then I'm like, so I said to the director, I was like, oh, yeah, he'll do it, this, that and the other. And then she turns around, her name was Laura, and she turns around and she goes, oh, would he mind doing 2 scenes in a day? Now, bearing in mind, he's never done a porn scene. So all of a sudden, she's now asking him to do what is really difficult for most studs that have been doing it for years. 2 scenes in a day, 2 cum shots in a day. And he's been put on the spot, like, can you do it? Like, can you perform? We need this scene. And he was like, okay, I'll go for it. And that's kind of how it happened. But it was dead awkward, right? Because the first scene, obviously it's all scripted and it's scenarios and stuff like that. So we got there and then we turned up. Bearing in mind, I've never done a scene like this in my life. I haven't done one since in this scenario. So it was just weird as anything. She goes, oh, it's a wedding scene, right? He's my boyfriend. I've been with him for about 2 months or something. She's like, you've got to wear a full wedding dress. I'm like, oh no, like how awkward is this, right? So I'm in this wedding dress. He's sitting there to do like his first ever porn scene, and I turn up downstairs on the studio in this wedding dress, like, hey, like, you're gonna shoot a scene with me dressed as a bride. And I'm like, how awkward. Like, you don't want that to happen with your boyfriend after 2 months. Like, it's funny now because we're married, but looking back at the time, we both had that awkward kind of like, oh, this is a bit awkward, you know. But yeah, it was good, and he did it, and he did a great job. And then they basically wanted to book him for lots more work. So, but this is the thing, people always go, oh, you know, how do you cope with each other shooting with other people? Do you film with other people, or is it just you two together? Of course we film with other people, we do porn, and it's our job. Like, it doesn't mean anything. Like, there's sex in real life, and then there's sex on set. Porn sex is completely acted out, it's completely fake. You don't really have an orgasm. People don't want to hear that, but you don't. Like, whereas sex in real life is completely different. And then you've got making love, which again is completely different on top of that. You've got 3 different aspects of it. You've got porn sex, which is acted out, no feelings, no emotion, no nothing. You both just act in a scene, you're actors, you're creating what people want to see. You're an actor. Then you've got sex in real life, which actually means something, and you have that emotional connection and stuff like that. And then you've got making love, which is on a whole different level, which is, I believe, can even go down to the thought of a spiritual connection, you know. Like, it's deep, it's really deep, it really means something. You can feel the passion and the love and everything like that. It's completely different. So yeah, like sex, like, you know, when we do porn and he's shooting with other people and I'm shooting people, there's nothing there. It's work. We're doing our job.
How do you separate